Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada, this is Gotmead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Aramutz bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead-making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Gotmead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Gotmead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Aramutz.
From the den of the puppies of the apocalypse in North Carolina, the bunny pen in Ottawa, Canada, and the retirement estate in Minnesota, it's Gotmead Live. Welcome to the show. We're glad to be back, and we hope you're glad that we're back. I wanted to thank all the folks who have renewed or signed up for a patron membership over the past couple of weeks. You guys are what basically helps pay for Gotmead. That's, you know, the money has to get paid for somehow, and that's where it goes, is to hosting, to storage, to all of that stuff. So thank you very much. You're very much appreciated. For those of you that are wondering what a patron membership is, it's $30 a year. You get access to patron-only Facebook groups and groups on the forum. And I'm actually working on trying to come up with some more cool things for patrons. So if you have any ideas, I am certainly open to hear them. But for a little over 50 cents a week, that gets you access to the patron areas and the award-winning recipes that are in there, and my Chamerlo recipes in there if you're interested. But basically, you guys are the engine that keeps Gotmead operating, so I appreciate it very much. For those who have donated on the Gotmead, please help us keep Gotmead alive fundraiser that's been going on for the last week, including both of you, Kevin and AJ. Thank you. You have my most abject and sincere thanks. That has been a huge weight off my shoulders. I have been so worried about this, and had it not been for Pete talking me into just do this, we'd probably be looking at shutting things down at the end of the month. So thank you to all of you who donated. You know, this is going to keep things going. Thank you so much. You're very much appreciated. Okay, so if you want to listen to us live, just go to Gotmead.com and click Gotmead Live Radio Show. The player is there, and it is live when we are. Otherwise, it is showing our most recent show. You can catch us if you prefer to listen later, during your drive time, when you're making mead, cleaning the house, not going to the grocery store, whatever it is. You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Just search Gotmead Live, and you can also go to the Gotmead Live Radio Show page. There's links to all these different venues there. It'll take you straight to it. So, and that'll let you download their apps, so forth and so on. If you want to find us online elsewhere, on Facebook, we are facebook.com/Gotmead, and the main group is facebook.com/groups/Gotmead. Don't forget to answer the couple questions when you come in, and we'll let you right in. I'm always watching. On Twitter, we are at Real Gotmead. Feel free to tweet us during the show. I've actually got the actual Twitter app up this week because I switched over to different tracking services this week. And if you want to send us questions, you can go to Gotmead Live Radio Show. And if you put your mouse over Gotmead Live Radio Show, there'll be a drop down. There's a click there for a form. And there's a form where you can send us suggestions, criticisms, ideas, questions, people you want us to have on the show, what have you. And AJ and I both get that. And if you want to call in during the show, the phone number is 803-443-MEAD. That's 803-443-6323. What are we drinking?
I am drinking a Chateau Chevette Spiritwood Farm Apple Mead. I started it in 2013, bottled it in 2018, and some of you who have seen me at Mazer Cup MeadCon may have had some because I brought it with me at least 1 year, maybe two. It's got crab and feral apples growing on the farm I used to work at, and this particular bottle's been badly mistreated, and it's a little bit dark, but it's still really tasty with that lovely fruity nose from the K1V, so I'm going to enjoy it. How about you, Kevin?
Well, tonight I'm drinking a 4-berry hydromel. It has raspberry, blueberry, strawberry, and blackcurrant. And you might ask, why am I not drinking cyser?
Yes,
the answer is my cyser supply is very low at the moment, partly because it is now cyser season. And the volume that I have from the award winners, I'm kind of hanging on to so I can share with friends. If I drink it myself, well, then there's nothing left to share.
There is that. Okay, they are hearing you guys, so we're golden. Arg.
Good deal.
Yeah, this is because we're on the old laptop, which is what I've got everything all set up on. The new laptop doesn't have the same connection, so I have to jump through considerably more hoops to make that one work. I can do it, but it's like a pain in the butt. So anyway, so yeah, tonight is all about Cysers. This is Kevin's idea, so if this goes completely sideways, you can blame him. He suggested that because fall, it was a great time to talk about Cysers, which I agree wholeheartedly. And because that's been much on my mind lately, I'm thinking, gee, it's really time to do I like doing a spiced cider or a spiced Cyser for Christmas. That's it. I know all y'all out there laughing, but I like Christmas spices, okay? Deal with it. They make me happy. But so I thought it was a great idea, and Kevin asked me, and literally, what was it, like the next day, Kev? Because we were kind of
I think
chatting.
the next day or two.
Yeah, next day or two, the Mazer Cup results come out. Lo and behold, Kevin takes the gold in Cyser, and he's like, well, we should get and he had started out with, we should get the gold medal winners in Cysers to be on the show, and then we could talk Cysers. And I was like, well, okay, we're going to start with you. And he's like, what?
Yeah, you contacted me before I had any idea that it actually published results.
Yeah.
So I was a little startled.
I see everything.
Yeah.
But
so this is not really a self-serving show.
He didn't know. He really
accidental.
didn't. Yeah. He was happy though, very happy. And
well, sure. I mean, who's not happy to win anything at Mazer? It doesn't even matter what it is, right?
That's right. So we decided that in talking it through that we wanted to kind of cross different areas. And so we went to the most recent 3 big comps, which were Mazer Cup, Valkyrie's Horn, and Valhalla. And that's how we ended up getting Kevin Martin and Adam Bystrom, who will be coming on shortly, and who are probably wondering why the hell I haven't called them yet. So
yeah, Allan Martin, by the way.
Oh, Allan Martin. Yeah, what did I say?
Yeah, just to be clear.
Yeah. Sorry, Allan, my mistake.
No problem.
Yeah, and I haven't even been drinking.
You better catch up then.
I'm working on it. I'm trying to do 3 things at once. I don't have that many hands. Okay, so we're going to add Allan and Adam right now. Because we got all these A's. That's what it is. But, so we wanted to get the gold medal winners. We figured they knew what they were talking about. They won gold medals in pretty competitive events. So why the heck not?
Hello.
Hey, welcome, Allan. Or I should say welcome back.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but happy to be back.
Yeah, we're happy to have you back. Oh, Adam made it. All right, welcome back, Adam.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. So, sorry about being a little bit late. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty at the beginning there. My computer was playing games with me, but we're back.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. So, congratulations on y'all's golds. My gosh, that's great.
Thank you.
Oh, Valhalla yeah. Is Allan on?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Allan's
here.
Allan's
as
here.
well.
Yep.
Hey, Allan. Nice to finally talk to you. I don't think I've met you before, so looking forward to this.
This will be fun. So, y'all complained Kevin this was his idea, and he just thought it'd be really cool to have the Cyser Gold people come on to talk about Cysers, and Kevin at the time didn't know he was one of them. So
oh yeah, Kevin's the Cyser cider king, definitely.
You'd never know it to hear him.
He's winning for. Yeah, he's the guy to talk to, so I'm just glad to be on with him.
Oh, wait a minute, time out. So who was it in the chat that said, I think Adam's made 18 Cysers? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to Holbrook about that.
Oh yeah, Holbrook said it. Yeah.
Adam, I've made 4.
Well, okay.
So if you want to talk to somebody who's made a lot of Cyser, I think you're a good guy to go to.
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a lot of trial and error, believe me.
Yeah. But that's part of the fun here is we'll talk through what you've done and, what changes you've made along the way. Because, with 18 different cysers, you've probably made at least some small changes to one, two, or all of them, right? So I think those are good things that we can chat about too and see how it kind of compares to maybe what Allan's done, what I've done. And that ought to paint a little bit of a picture for some of the people who are listening in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So where do we want to start here? I think, Vicki, maybe we start with Adam because he's got to drop off kind of early.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Is it Adam or Allan that's dropping off early? No, it was Adam. It was Adam. Okay.
Yeah, he gets up at like 4:30 in the morning.
I wake up at the buck rack.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle.
Jackie has that problem too, and I don't know how he makes it through the show. He has to get up at like 3:30 in the morning.
Caffeine.
Yeah, lots and lots of caffeine. So let's just kind of start with you and everybody chip in as needed and necessary and wanting.
Did you want to go through their bios a little bit first? I don't know if that's sort of standard or not.
Well, yes and no. They've both been on the show before, so all y'all know. Yeah, Adam is part of the Minnesota gang, and if you want to go back and listen to the Midwest Madness shows, there's two of them. He's a really talented mead maker. Are you still currently in first place on Mead Maker of the Year, Adam?
No.
Ooh, who shot you down, man?
It. Yeah.
Holbrook took it from me, dude.
Yeah, Josh took it.
Oh man, bummer. We'll have to have him knocked off.
But technically, Adam is still in first place because they haven't published.
Yeah,
no, that's true. They haven't published.
It's not official, but
yeah,
he really kicked butt the last two comps. So
yeah. But congratulations. Regardless, I mean that's still pretty stiff competition to stay on the top for all but until the very last minute there like that. That's pretty cool.
I dare say.
Yeah, and Allan too. I think he's top three. I think all year long almost too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was second towards the beginning, and then I got pushed back to third, and that's where I believe I still am.
Okay.
Well, that's pretty awesome, though. Think about it, and of course, that's one of the reasons you guys are here, right? I mean, you make good mead all the time, and that's what it takes.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe Adam, can you give us a quick walkthrough on the process that you follow when you're making a cyser?
Yeah, sure. So now it all. I mean, I know what it all comes down to now. I mean, it's the number one thing you really got to focus on is the cider. Like you can get honey, you can get good honey. It's hard to get good apples and good cider. I think that's the hardest part. And I mean, you can always get decent cider from apple orchards around your area, but more often than not, that's going to be more sweet cider stuff for drinking. The tough part is finding that like really tannic, really acidic juice or apples that that makes a really good fermented beverage. So yeah, it's my first cyser I ever made. I actually took third at Mazer, and then I went on a big long streak of experimenting and making awful stuff.
Okay, we're going to come back to that.
Yeah, I think I got kind of lucky on that first one. But when I look back on it, I'm not sure why it did so well. I think because it was Sweet Tango and Macintosh apple blend, and I think traditionally both those are more for eating the apples or making just sweet juice. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a really I'm not a apple aficionado.
Sweet Tango has a fair amount of acidity. It doesn't really have any tannin to speak of. So just for those listening, Sweet Tango is one of the apple varietals developed by the University of Minnesota, and they flourish in a cool climate. So they're very good for where we live, and of course they grow them in Michigan and upstate New York and so forth. So you can find them, but it's a really good.
We're kind of spoiled around here with our apples because we get a lot of the university's apples or what they've developed over the past few, several decades.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, a lot of times, you'll do there'll be club buys, or you find someone selling, cider on Craigslist or something, and it's got a whole bunch of Honeycrisp, and I don't think that's a really good juice to use. It's good. They're great to eat, but it's kind of a bland juice to ferment with.
Yeah.
So it's really all about that. I mean, I found that even adding just 10% of an apple that's high in acidity and tannins, like chestnut crab is kind of the poster child of that. Just adding that little bit is going to make even the blandest ciders pop.
Right. Yeah, I do agree with that. What do you think about that, Alan? What do you do from a sourcing apples standpoint?
Yeah, so I'm in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and apples are there's not apple orchards on every corner. So luckily
no desert apples, huh?
Luckily, we have a cidery in town, Cider Works, that allows our local brew club, Arizona Society of Homebrewers, to do a group buy. We're able to show up with our buckets or whatever and actually purchase the cider that they use for their hard ciders. So that's a really good source for us out here as far as getting good cider to make cysers with.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So in that case, you're just basically taking whatever blend they happen to have available at that point in time.
Right. So I'm going to use that as my base, but then I'm also going to, throw in some fresh apples of my own, both in primary and secondary, to get whatever flavor profile I'm looking for. Unfortunately, we don't have crab apples around here either, so I end up using, quite a few Granny Smiths to try to get some tartness in there.
Okay. All right. So Adam, back to you. As far as now, you've chosen your apples, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing next?
So then it kind of goes one of two ways. Well, I guess with yeast. So I've done a lot of English ale with cysers, and they've worked well, like Nottingham or 04. And I started branching more towards wine yeast now for that, and mostly wine. I try to pick a strain that's honestly a little bit more neutral because I want a lot of character in my cider, and I'm picking honey that has a lot of its own character. So I want those two to blend together, and I don't want a ton from a lot of esters from the yeast. So I think DV10 has done a really good job with that for me. So I've been rolling with that the last handful of batches. But then it all comes down. You taste the cider, and it's what you got, or it's and you just got to roll with it. So it's either something spectacular or it's something kind of bland. And if it's bland, then I kind of go towards a more forward honey, a honey that's more maybe familiar to people or can stand out. I've done a cider recently with fireweed, and that works really well because it's fireweed, and that had a lot of chestnut crab in it too to kind of bring it up. Or I've done recently I've played with Lahua with some pressed apples, and that was nice because you really get that honey. It's not just a wildflower or like a generic clover. There's really good yellow clover will work fantastic, but this kind of generic clover kind of gets pushed to the back, and then you just have bland with bland a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So taste the juice, and if you get some weird fruit in it, I was using this champagne apple from Eau Claire, and I got a whole bunch of banana. So I was like, that's how I chose Lahua. And during fermentation, I just chased banana bread. I was like, this is so much banana bread in this, and that's been my favorite cider to date. And that was just it's two types of apple, a little bit more chestnut crab in there, but primarily champagne and then Lahua. So it's relatively simple, but turned out nice and complex with the honey and the apple.
Okay, and are you controlling your fermentation temperature with that, or just letting it go?
Oh yeah, we're lucky. We have the Minnesota basements that are like continuously at 65. So yeah, I mean, if it's hotter down there, I won't do it. But yeah, 65, and if it is a little bit warmer, I'll temperature control in my chest freezer. Yeah, low to mid 60s, usually what I shoot for with DV10. It seems to roll pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what about you, Allan?
Well, I don't have a ton of experience with Cysers. A little less than 2 years ago, I entered my very first one, and it ended up winning about 4 medals that year. So I've kind of stuck with what worked right at the beginning. My go-to yeast for Cysers is QA23 on the cold side. Typically, honey-wise, primary, some desert wildflowers, some orange blossom, and then I like to use Tupelo for back sweetening because at least the Tupelo that I have, it seems to have a nice green apple aroma and flavor to me. So it works well if I want a nice, crisp, carbonated, slightly tart cyser, which sounds really good right now.
So is carbonation something that you typically do with your cyser then?
I do. I like my cysers to be on the crisp side, so the the carbonic bite helps that, and serving it cold. That's
are you shooting for petalent, or are you going for champagne levels?
Yeah, pretty well carbonated. I'd say definitely above petalent. Maybe not quite to champagne, but pretty well carbonated.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, I'm about the same. I usually ride the line between petalent and sparkling, always in this kind of stuff. And lately I've been trending more towards semi-sweet cysers. And I think that's just because I've made quite a few dry, and they're great and a lot of fun. But I don't know, I think my taste has kind of been going more towards semi-sweet, and using more distinct honeys lately with really nice cider that I've been able to get my hands on. I kind of want them both to be up front, not just really quenching, like more just satisfying, like not super dry, and what I kind of do, I prefer a dry cider, but with cysers, I've been liking the semi-sweet lately.
I'm curious, what for you, Adam, what is your typical original gravity target for a cyser?
Yeah, that's another deal, because I have, when I'm making all my meads, I'm always shooting towards the same beginning gravity, somewhere that ends around 6%, 6.5 on the high. But with cyser, I always make sessions, so I'm adding water to my sweet cider. So if I have like a good example are those champagne apples that I got from Eau Claire, the original gravity on those was 1058, which is quite a bit higher it's higher than any other juice I've ever used. And when I cut it with water, you want to cut it so much to where you can add enough honey to make where it tastes like a mead. But when it's, when you want to keep in that 6.5 range, it kind of gets tricky. And that kind of comes in, like how, oh, sorry, my sleep alarm went off. It's telling me I need to go to bed. Yeah, so if you have like a cider that just is kind of softer, then I'll use more of that to water. And a lot of times, it's 50-50 typically, but and that's where the process is coming as well. Like I've done 1 to 2 cider to water, and that's only worked a few times, and it's been with cider that's been really bold, like frostbite with chestnut crab. But 50-50 seems to be the sweet spot. But doing that more often than not, it rides that line also between cider and cyser. A lot of people will say, like, I don't get the honey, so maybe that's where the semi-sweet comes in, where I can add a little bit more back sweetening to it to bring out that mead, not just the hard cider.
Okay.
That's interesting. I've always been all my cysers have all been all juice, and now granted it's been several years since I've made one, and I was not letting them go all the way dry and then doing any back sweetening. So there's that. But what about, I mean, if you're going to be, and that's probably what I'm going to do with my next one, is let it go all the way dry and then back sweeten. Have you done where you just have more of the cider with the honey to bring that sweetness back up, or do you always go with the water?
Yeah, a back sweeten with the cider.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've done that. I've done that with Pymans, but not with Cysers. Just because I feel like when you're doing a session strength Cyser, you really want that honey to come through. Yeah,
mine were all full ABV, so that's the difference there. But
yeah, but no more than 50%, I would say. Like if you're adding water,
okay.
I think the lowest gravity I've ever had in any juice has been 1040 maybe, but usually it's around 1044, 1046, something like that. So it's kind of in that nice sweet range that to cut with water if you want to make a session.
Okay. I'm taking notes here since that's something that I've been thinking about.
Allan, where is your starting gravity typically going to be for a cider?
Like Adam was saying, if I'm shooting for a session type cyser, I'm going to start a little bit higher than I normally would, maybe 1090 or so. But then I know on the back end I'm going to be adding water. So it just depends on what your final product is, where you're going to start. If you know you're going to be adding water, then you got to start with a higher gravity. That's for the sessions. If I'm doing a non-session Cyser, then I'm going to start roughly the same gravity, but I'm not going to be adding the water. I'm going to be adding probably either the cider that I got from Cider Works, and I'll maybe freeze concentrate it, or if I don't have that available, I'll just get some concentrate from the store.
Okay.
Yeah, if I was going for full strength, I mean, I would, I'd take that whatever the OG of the juice was, double it with the honey, and probably maybe even, I'd add quite a bit more, and then I would definitely save some of the juice for back sweetening, because I'd probably get, in my mind, 2/3 of the fermentables from the honey. So you'd need, if you didn't cryo concentrate, you definitely need more apple in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of curious, Allan. You said you add water after fermentation as opposed to reducing the gravity prior to fermentation. Can you explain why you choose to do it that way?
I'm looking at my notes from this particular. This is the one that just won the first place. I think what I ended up doing was just deciding I wanted two different types of Cysers out of this batch, so I split it.
Okay.
So that's why I ended up adding water to bring the one batch down to a session, and then I left the other one alone. So I just split the batch and processed them two different ways.
Okay.
Fair.
And for both of you, is your finishing gravity typically 1.000 or less?
I ferment everything to dry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same for you, Adam?
Yeah, cider is 100% fermentable, so it's going 995, something like that. And then, I'll always back sweetening a little bit. I don't like, I haven't found success in leaving anything that low. So just a handful over one, or, 15 points over one, something like that. Just got to find the sweet spot, and whatever it's telling you to stop at, that's when I stop.
Mm-hmm. What about fining? Do you do anything, Adam?
Yeah, Cysers are a biatch to clear.
Okay,
like,
so wait,
easily...
let's time out. Let's back up a step. Are you using pectic enzyme with your juice?
Oh, dude, I use bentonite, pectic enzyme, and then I'll use Kysol chitosan, and sometimes that don't even work, and then I got a filter. Yeah, I've had the most problems with Cysers.
That's really interesting, because I find for me they clear up the fastest.
I find them
when I hit with bentonite and they're clear.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Weird.
My process. They've been the hardest. Yeah, I monkeyed with one for, I would say, 6 months. I was just letting it sit and sit and sit. And that's when I finally bought my the Vino Mini Jet or whatever they're called, the filter. It's because of that cyser that I bought a filter.
Now that was probably one that you added water to, right?
Oh yeah, yep. That one had water.
So can I ask?
They all do.
Is it RO or is it hard water? Or because I know your water source, and that's why I asked.
Mm-hmm.
What were you using? Water. RO. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I wonder if that maybe caused something weird to happen by diluting the pectinase or something.
Well, it sure shouldn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, but maybe. I don't know. It's weird.
What about you, Alan? Are you doing any fining or filtering with your cysers?
Yeah, I hit it with the pectic enzyme, typically bentonite in primary, and then once it's sat for a couple of months or whatever, and I've been messing with it and fine tuning it, then at the very end I'll hit it with the super clear.
Okay.
Yeah,
filtering would be filtering would be a last ditch effort if I needed to.
Are you adding any post-fermentation tannins? Or for that matter, are you guys adding any kind of mouthfeel enhancers like Opti White, Opti Red, FT Blanc Soft?
Yeah, since I do sessions, I mean, I add them to everything just to do it. I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt me. But I think on Cysers, I'm doing a little bit less than I normally do on them. And most of the time it's maybe just FT Blanc.
Alan?
Yep, I'm the same. For cyser, I'm putting in Opti White at the beginning. I'm putting in FT Blanc Soft at the beginning. And then post-fermentation, if I find that I don't have the tannins that I want, then I would maybe, depending on how much of a hurry I'm in, I'm either going to maybe add a little bit of white American oak, or maybe just a little bit of liquid if I have that available. But
wait, what? Yeah. Liquid what?
Liquid oak.
Okay, that's a new one to me.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, it's basically just an oak extract. You can I've actually made my own liquid oak at home. I just take the chips and put them in a little bit of vodka, and it extracts the flavor.
Okay, so a tincture.
Like oak tincture.
Got it.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Josh like that.
It's a quicker way of getting things done if you're in a hurry.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Usually do American oak. Is that what you're saying?
For a cyser.
Yeah.
I want something light.
Okay. Oh, let's see. Now, I'm guessing, based on what Alan said, that you do not have the opportunity to crush and press apples because you're going to the local cidery to get your juice. And I'm guessing that's 100% of the time, basically?
Correct. So I'm either getting it from Cider Core locally, or if I'm in a hurry to make a cyser and I don't have that available, then I'm going to the store and getting, just whatever they have available that hasn't been hit with chemicals.
Okay. And Adam, I know you have done some pressing in the past. I'm not sure if you've done crush and grind.
What do you mean by crush and drying?
Whole apples that you've ground up and then pressed.
Oh yeah, that's what I've done every time.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like it's either I've done like the club by every once in a while, or I've driven down to an orchard south of the cities. But yeah, if I can, and what I've done lately is crush and press. Done it with the guys at Number 12 Cidery in Minneapolis. That's been a lot of fun. They've got one of those old-fashioned rack and cloth presses, or at least they did when I was doing it maybe a year ago. And then also I've pressed with just plain Jane apple press and grinder with my father-in-law, and that's a lot of fun.
So when you're doing that, are you allowing the apple to sit after they've been ground before you press for a while, or do you just go straight to the press?
Yes, straight to the press. I think I know what you're saying by letting it sit, letting it brown a little bit, and yeah.
You pick up a little more tannin from the skins and the seeds too.
Sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. For the most part, it's within a half an hour press. Mm-hmm. But they do start to brown, absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
oddly enough, it doesn't actually change the color of the cider very much.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it does a little. There's a little change, but not much. And then another question along that same line, have you done a fermentation on the flesh, skins, and seeds?
No, that'd be cool. If I did that, it would definitely be a full strength.
Right.
Yeah. That I've thought about that before. That would be a lot of fun, but no, I haven't.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a cool thing to do.
That. Right now, we've got like a 35 gallon food grade tote at my father-in-law's that we took all the extra skins in it. We filled it up to the brim, and then we just put a whole bunch of water in it. But it's not going to be a cyser, so we're just seeing what happens.
Oh. Are you fermenting it wild then, I take it?
Yeah, totally wild, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's probably going to be pretty awful, but we'll see.
Actually, what I do is I do that, but I add a little bit of sugar, and then that's what I turn into my cider vinegar.
Oh, we added a mound. It was like 35 pounds of sugar.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Well, not if it's how big was this tote?
A 35-gallon tote. Yeah, so it's like
a pound a gallon is about what you'd want for making cider or for making vinegar, anyways.
Good to know.
Yeah, you don't want it too strong.
I asked him if he had any sugar, and he brought out a big brown bag of it, and I was like, let's put it all in.
Allan, you started to say something there. I'm curious.
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I've made. I think you'd call it a cider because I don't think I added any honey to it. But I fermented entirely on the flesh of the apples. Skins, seeds, pulp, everything, and it turned out really complex. So it's a process.
Put in a hot bag?
No, I just did it free range in an 8-gallon stainless fermenter, and then once the fermentation was complete, I basically just treated it like a wine, and once the fermentation was complete, I put it in I have a bladder press. I put it in there and pressed off the flesh. So it turned out pretty cool. I definitely want to do that again.
Cool. Did you take first at AHA with a cider or cyser?
I took second at Nationals a couple of years ago for my very first cyser.
What was that one like? So did you press that one yourself too?
No, that one was apples that I got from the Primary Fermenters Club cider event that we do. So one of the guys there has a grinder has a bladder press, and we go over to his place, and he sources apples from all over the place because he travels for work, and so I used that, and it was the first one I did, and it was orange blossom with 71B. So pretty
cool.
Pretty standard stuff, nothing real fancy. And it was the first one I made, so just kind of trying something, and it turned out pretty good.
I was really iffy on rolling with orange blossom and a cyser, and then I had one of Al Boyce's, and I was like, all right, I'll try this. And I was still kind of iffy, but made it and was very happy with how it turned out. And orange blossom is so fantastic, but I guess I didn't ever imagine it pairing well with the cyser, but it really does.
Yeah, there's something about that earthy character with that just hint of citrus that comes through in the fermentation, and it works pretty well. I think for me personally, my go-to honey is going to be a high quality sweet yellow clover.
Yep. I think that's the best honey for cysers.
Yeah, I mean for the base honey, and I haven't really experimented with back sweetening with other honeys at this point because the ones that I have made have turned out so well. I don't really feel the need to fuss with it too much, but probably in the future, I'll branch out and try some other things. I mean, Allan's idea of trying to use Tupelo sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yellow
probably
clover
give
and
that a shot.
avocado works really good together too.
Oh, really? Avocado?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like 10% avocado, or 10-15%. I found that works really good with yellow clover and cyser.
That's interesting because that's a really earthy honey. I mean, and, the tobacco and kind of chocolate notes that you get out of that, I would tend to think would kind of be overpowering for the fairly delicate apple character.
Yeah, doing primary, and then it kind of like it plays really well with like a tannic chestnut crab or something like that.
Okay.
And it's pretty good.
Oh, good.
I've only done it once, but it's something that I wanted to do for a while, and when I did it, I was pretty happy with how it turned out.
I like the cinnamon and kind of nutmeg background notes that you get in really good sweet clover.
Oh yeah.
That it adds a lot.
Yeah, I managed to get my hands on a gallon of that, and that's what I was thinking about using it for.
Yeah, I think that'd be an awesome choice.
Yeah. I texted him, and I'd managed to squirrel away a little bit, and I texted him, and I'm like, okay, how much for 5 gallons? And he's really good prices, but it was more than I had available, fund-wise, which irked me no end because his prices are great,
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, then I'll settle for a gallon. And if this Uber Bochet that Tracy's sending me, which you guys didn't hear this, I was telling Kevin and AJ before we got on, Tracy Kufus is sending me a gallon of this accidental Bochet honey. And basically a guy she knows had a 55-gallon drum, wrapped it in a heating blanket, and then forgot it for a week. And apparently the honey was darn near black when he remembered it, and he was like, oh my god, I've totally ruined this. And she said the honey is amazing, so I'm thinking maybe that with a little of this as an adjunct. So starting out with the clover and then maybe bringing that as an adjunct if the flavor's right. I haven't tasted it yet, so.
What was the base honey on that one? On the Bochet?
On the Bochet, I do not know.
Caramelized?
55-gallon drum, yeah. Tracy, she's on the chat. Tracy, do you know what the varietal was, or if it was a varietal? So, yeah.
I think my next cyser is definitely going to be caramelized honey and apples. I've been wanting to do that one combination for a while
That's what
now.
I was thinking. I mean, honey or apples and caramel go together so well. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I kind of like using my local apiary does golden honey that's mostly goldenrod, and I like that with apples because it just really, really reminds me of like fall days.
Yeah.
Walking through the forest in the fall, like you can't, until you add in some asters or something like that, you can't beat it.
So after
Okay, Tracy
Allan said
says
that he used Tupelo, the Tupelo I've got, I get a lot of dried fruit, like dried raisins or plums, and I think that could be really good too. Now that after he said that, I mean, raisins and apples and Kind of sounds like a good like a baked pie or something like with those two. Like that could be good.
Yeah. Tracy says she
Caramelized
thinks.
Tupelo.
Yeah. I don't know if I could bring myself to caramelize Tupelo.
Yeah.
Tracy says she thinks it was Wildflower from Walker, which his honey's really good
Okay.
too. So yeah, that would have made me cry even more, because oh my God, I burnt the honey. But she said it turned out great, so I'll see it in a week or so. So we'll see.
Sometimes the most amazing things come from mistakes.
Yeah, I know, right? I say one of my best meads ever was a total accident that I can never repeat, sadly.
Yeah, same with one of my best wines. I was accused of making wild grape port because I accidentally left it for a couple of days in a 5-gallon pail or a 5-gallon bucket when it was a 3-gallon batch, because I only had that for racking into, and it oxidized just perfectly that everybody said it was great.
Yeah, that can happen, although
happy accident.
Just as often it goes the other way.
Yeah, the cardboard's kind of, rather than the sherry kind of.
Mm-hmm. Or just too much oxidation. That's not
fair
to do either. Now, Adam, I don't think you mentioned, are you oaking your Cysers?
Yeah, when Allan said that he did the American oak, I had a cider that was a little bit bland for me. So this has happened a couple times, and I don't mind that, because then I know that I'm going to do something fun with it, add spices or fruit. And that one I added, I think I had medium American and primary, and then secondary I did light American, and then I added like 5 different types of spices to it, and it turned out really nice, like kind of like a holiday mead. It's the second time I've done that one, but the first time I added oak to it, and I definitely agree with Allan. The American really is perfect for Cysers.
So the one that I sent to Mazer Cup, let's see, that one, I got to double check and see if I oaked that. Oh yeah, I did. I used chips. So my starting volume was 6.3 gallons at 1.090 original gravity. I used orange blossom honey with that and DV10. And so this was kind of interesting. So the cider that I got from this, for this particular batch, I got in 2017, and it was in a 5-gallon bucket, which I stuck in a chest freezer, and it stayed there for 12 months because, well, I had other projects going on. So I pulled that out, thawed it, and then started the cyser. But I added 4 ounces of oak chips to that volume. And I'm pretty sure I did that in primary. That's typically what I do with these.
I've become a big fan of oaking in primary.
I normally like to do my oaking in secondary, but for cyser, I like what happens to it in primary.
Yeah.
Definitely, especially with sessions, I've found that primary is the way to go. But sometimes I'll do both. Primary is great with sessions.
Yeah. So for this particular one, I know I fermented this at 65, and then I added some additional honey to bring up the gravity to 1.100. That was like 4 days into the fermentation. And I did do back sweetening to this a little bit, not much.
And you used DV10? I think
I did.
I think I started using DV10 after we talked about Cysers one time, and that's kind of become my go-to. I love it with Cysers.
DV10 is definitely my go-to for cider, or apple juice more appropriately, I suppose. It's neutral, and you can ferment it cold. It actually really likes to be cold, and that allows me to have a little slower fermentation, which I feel is a lot better for cider or for apple juice, because apple juice will throw sulfur left and right if you're not careful.
Yeah, that's been one of my biggest problems with Cysers, is avoiding that.
Sulfur.
My
Right.
crab apples sometimes do vomit.
Ugh.
Oh yeah, sure.
Somewhere in the middle, they do this vomit thing, and it goes away, but in the middle, it's really awful.
But that's
Will
a
you
good
go
reason
into
to
the
ferment
50s?
cold if you can, because it'll help control that.
Fair enough.
Will
I
you go
don't
into
really
like
have
the
the way
50s,
to do that.
Kevin? Or
I'm sorry, what?
will you ferment in the 50s? Like, how cold are you talking?
Oh, this particular one, let me just see. I don't think I was quite that cold.
Okay.
65 for this.
Oh, okay.
But I have an ice cider going right now that I'm fermenting at 50.
Cool.
But that's going to take 4 months to ferment. So. But it also will come out extraordinarily clean if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
It's not throwing any sulfur, and I know the fermentation's just, kind of chugging along. But it also has a starting gravity of 1.165, so it's going to take a while.
Oh, wow.
Well, it's an ice cider.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Fair.
And the minimum is 1.130, I believe, if I remember right. Per the style guideline, anyway. Not that that's the only thing we care about. It's not. But,
It's a starting point, though.
if you're doing competitions and that's one of the stated things in the style, then you kind of have to stick to it. Allan, you obviously do a fair number of competitions if you're on the leaderboard for the Mead Maker of the Year. Any idea how many of those you participate in?
Well, last year I made it up on the leaderboard, kind of didn't really know it was happening, and just happened to stumble on the AMMA leaderboard. I'm like, wow, my name's on there. So I started doubling down on getting stuff into comps. That was last year, and I finished 5th. So this year I really did have the goal to finish top 3. So I entered as many entries, or the max entry that any comp would allow that was part of the series. I entered, and then a couple others as well. So really busy competition-wise.
Okay. And how long have you been making mead? I don't really know a whole lot about your story, so kind of curious.
Yeah, so I think I'm in my 4th year. I got introduced to mead making by Carvin. Just at a friend of a friend's house, got together and met him there, tasted a few of his meads. And of course I was hooked because they were delicious. And decided to start making mead, and didn't do any comps my first year. But my wife is a beer brewer, and she enters comps and wins medals. So I got a little jealous and wanted to win a medal. So I started entering local competitions, and finally won my first medal. Then I started branching out and entering more of the mead comps around the country. And again, once I saw my name on the leaderboard, back when before there was just the top 10, they were showing like the top 30 or so. I was probably like number 26. And I said, that sucks. I can be higher than that. So that's what kind of what kind of sparked my competition.
Sure.
Fury.
I mean, those things are a good way to give yourself a little push, right? To stay engaged and make you experiment a little more and work a little harder at it, right?
Absolutely. I started making things that I wouldn't make for myself, just because I thought they would do well in competitions, because maybe those entries on that type of mead are a lot less than say a sweet or a semi-sweet berry mead, which is so many entries. I decided to start making entries that weren't as populated, in hopes of a better chance of winning a medal. So that has definitely challenged me to branch out and make different things that I wouldn't normally make.
How do you go about that, Adam?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar too, where last year I finished 9th, and my goal this year was top 5, so I'm happy. And but yeah, and I started trying to make stuff to fill in kind of niche categories. But my problem is, like, I'll get halfway through and I'll be like, this needs to be a fruit and spice, and 80% of my stuff ends up being fruit and spice because it's just so fun to play around with it and add different fruits and spices.
Well, and there's a lot of room to maneuver there.
It's an easy trap to fall into. It really is.
It really, yeah.
It tends to be a really good-sized category, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're almost always one of the biggest ones, and yeah, and I think maybe that might be, I'll try not to do that so much this year. What I really made a lot of early is dries, and I had a lot of success and fun doing that, and then wanted to get better at semi-sweets, and now that I've made semi-sweets, I kind of enjoy those a little bit more, and I need to kind of go back to the dries maybe a little bit, or smaller categories. But yeah, I always start tasting it, all throughout, primary, and ideas get in my head where I was going to make a basswood traditional with Holbrook's honey, and as I'm tasting it, I'm like, oh man, this could, some like citrus would be really good with this, and I start thinking of like some like tart cherries, and then I start thinking of like Shirley Temple, like mead, and next thing I know, it's like, it's not a basswood trad anymore.
But that actually brings up an interesting little question, which is, what do you do for inspiration? I mean, I know personally, because I've seen your notebook, right? You keep a notebook of everything you've done, which most of us do that if we're halfway decent at this hobby.
Aye.
But what do you do for inspiration?
Just, I keep a notepad on my phone, and whenever I think or hear or taste some kind of fun combination, I just jot it down. And it's a super long to brew list.
That was my next question. How deep is it?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, it's long. I think I got like 136 on there now. Yeah, it's long, something like that. And yeah, like I'll think to myself, I want to do a meadow foam with fresh squeezed orange juice and secondary with vanilla, and then I'm like, why don't I do limes and maybe add like some sort of almond, make like a key lime, and then next thing I know, one idea turns into like 4. And so, yeah.
What about you, Allan? What do you do for inspiration?
Wow, I haven't been doing this very long, so I don't really have to look for inspiration. It's just, like Adam is saying, the flavor profiles you can think of and do are just limitless and infinite. So I don't have any problems with inspiration. Anytime anybody asks me, what mead is, or I typically will ask them, how much time do you have? Because how fucking long is there going to listen?
It's kind of interesting because I think the three of us have all started about the same time on this.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm not sure what that means, but it is kind of interesting. Oh, Matt Whitey just joined. He wants to make a apple Jolly Rancher cyser.
Of course he does. Is there going to be peeps in that, Matt?
I hope so. As long as the
You're
eyes
never going to
don't
hear the end of the
fall.
peeps. Ever.
The eyes.
Yeah.
The
You need to remove the eyes before you put them in there, though. We need to debone the peeps.
I'm actually drinking one of Whitey's Cysers. It's a cherry Cyser. Very nice. I love the tartness and the acidity, and the tannins are great in this. Yeah, let's open that a little bit ago and just been milking it.
So the cherry Cyser, that actually has to go in mellow, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, again, I'm not looking at a guideline right now, but I think it's just apple cider and honey that goes into the regular Cyser category, right?
Yep, that's it.
And I don't think you're even allowed to add anything else to it. Like you can't add spices or other fruit. I had a friend who was asking me about adding dates to his Cyser and wanting to know how you would go about that. And it's like, well, yeah, you can certainly do that. It's probably a pretty good combo, but you probably wouldn't want to enter that as Cyser. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you can't taste the dates.
Well, and even then, I don't know if it would technically be allowed, and maybe technically is sort of the determinant there, but I don't know if that's entirely fair.
Yeah, spice cyser, fruit and spice. Yeah. It's easy to deviate out of that category.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know that he was planning to do that. It just was something that I was wondering about.
Matt's saying he made a cyser with quote unquote cyser with apple Jolly Ranchers 10 years ago. Pro tip, not good.
Oh. Yeah, that just doesn't. I don't know. There's something about that. I know somebody though who made a mead with Red Hots.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people who've made mead from Red Hots. That's a fairly popular mead ingredient.
Yeah, I mean they're easy to use and they kind of do what you would expect them to do. They taste a little fake, but works.
Speaking of inspiration, I was thinking about there's so many cideries out there now, and what a lot of the ones, at least around Minnesota, Twin Cities, and up in Duluth, have started to do is add different fruits and spices to theirs. Mm-hmm. And so I've had hard cider with strawberry and basil, and like apple, strawberry, basil, it goes really well together. And probably the one that jumped out the most to me has been pineapple hard cider, and apple and pineapple I never would have really paired, but it worked really well. It was fantastic.
I've had a couple that are like that, and they're always really good.
So I made a mead 2 years ago that I would like to repeat this year now, which is apple cider, honey, ginger, and cardamom.
Yeah.
I want some of that when you make
that. Was based on a cocktail that I ran across in a magazine when I was in a doctor's office or something, right? Just paging through randomly, and I saw this, and I'm like, took a picture of it with my phone because I thought, oh, that sounds really cool. And I went off and, put something together, and it turned out great. And boy, it didn't last long because I finished it right around Thanksgiving time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it disappeared, and I haven't made it since. But I think I might want to try doing that again this year.
I've got some black cardamom
good.
Yeah, I've got some black cardamom that I picked up after Talkington took me into the ingredient room at the brewery, and at Dogfish
So different.
Yeah, it is totally different, but I think it would go really well with apple. So when I get my apple juice, assuming that I get my apple juice, I'm gonna try. Sort of basically just like steeping it in there and see where it gets. I'll probably do a hot steep so I can extract the flavor and then let that cool and see what that feels like.
Apple chai is amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So how does black cardamom differ from green?
Well, it's very smoky.
It's pungent.
It's
really
pungent. It's really pungent. Yeah. And that's saying something considering how pungent green cardamom is. But it's got a much smokier character to it. It, for want of a better word, tastes darker.
I was going to say the same thing. It's the only way I can describe it, is it tastes darker.
Yeah.
It makes no sense, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But
so
I've been wanting
in a chai mixture.
The green cardamom is more familiar for me because it's a common ingredient in Scandinavian cooking.
Oh yeah. Yeah, see, that's what I use when I make my chai is green cardamom. And what was it, Adam? Was that you who asked about it in chai?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been on my mind to do that because chai mead is near the top of the ever-growing list of meads I want to make. But
I've made several based on the apple of my chai recipe on Gotmead.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Rob to give me the layout for Chai Hulud. Because that's the one he's been working on for a while and perfecting it, and he hasn't released it yet. So, but it sounds amazing and scary. But and for anybody who's a Dune fan, it's not just Chai Hulud, it's Chai Hulud. You have to say it right. But
Definitely tempted to try the black cardamom next time I do a chai cyser.
Yeah, Josh Holbrook is saying tastes like smoky teriyaki sauce to him. At least the one he's got anyway. Mine did not taste like smoky teriyaki chops or smell like it, but it definitely had a lot of smoke going on. So I say I'm going to take and, Adam, I think I will take and, grind up a pod and add it to my chai one day and see how that changes it. Because I have a chai mix that I made, and I could definitely go and put that in there and see where it gets. Oh, Tracy just put up a picture in the chat of the honey, and it is, by God, black.
Oh, that is dark.
That's black.
Yep.
It looks like tar, Tracy.
I've tried white cardamom, green cardamom, and black cardamom, and they're all very distinctly different from each other. I mean,
there's white
totally,
as well?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a white
Oh my
too. Yeah, white cardamom's lovely. I really like it.
I don't know anything.
I actually prefer the green.
You're just not a spice whore yet, Kevin. We'll convert you.
No,
Don't
it's
worry.
true. You know what? I have not made a lot of spice meads. I feel like it's a huge hole in my experience at this point.
Well, feel free to ping off me, because aside from making spice meads, which is methclin's my favorite category, I've been a spice whore for a very long time. I'm constantly searching out weirdo spices.
You're a spice dragon. You hoard them.
Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay. Well, and spices are great too if you're going to judge or do anything like that at competitions. I think having as much experience as possible with all these different kinds of spices and herbs as you can possibly manage is a huge boon to the judging process, because you can pick stuff out a lot faster because you recognize it.
Yeah.
Language is just so important.
Yeah, it is. That's one of my biggest downfalls in judging, is nailing the language.
Yeah, I can't describe what I'm tasting. I may be able to taste it, but I can't describe it.
Right. Well, I
need to learn more language for it.
In the wine world, they've done a lot of really, really good work on what human noses can detect and what you can taste and so forth. And, they used to say things like dogs can smell 2 million different distinguishable scents and humans can only smell 10,000. They said stuff like that. That's not
how many do you need, really?
Well, but it's not even true. I mean, It might be true for dogs, but for humans, it's like 500,000.
Yeah.
But the problem is you have to develop the language. And of course, I don't know if it's actually 500,000, but it's it's a large number. But so much of it is language. They can give people samples, and they can usually tell you which sample is different. They just can't describe what it is. And that's the experience piece. That's, for us as mead makers or brewers or judges or whatever, that's a huge piece of the puzzle, figuring out what these things are and being able to articulate it.
Yeah.
I carry the UC Davis honey wheel.
Yeah. I love that.
I mean, I do whenever I'm trying like a new mead. If I bought it and I want it, or like if I'm even drinking some of mine to pick out some flavors, that honey wheel is super valuable.
Yeah, that was a great thing that they did with that. Tracy, in case if you're on the chat, Tracy put up a video of the tar mead and says it tastes like chocolate caramel coffee and toffee.
Oh my.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's pretty crystallized too.
Yeah, it is. Well, that was how it ended up getting tarified in the first place.
I suppose.
Then, of course, as soon as it cooled down, it recrystallized.
Yeah. Interesting. Well,
I find it easier to handle when it's crystallized, honestly. It's easier to measure and it doesn't drip as bad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just get an ice cream scooper. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. I use a brewing stainless spoon, but, same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
as long
mind
as
it.
the water's warm, when you mix it in the water, it doesn't take that long to dissolve.
Right.
Usually.
So, Allan, what do you have a preference for mead styles that you want to make for yourself?
Oh, definitely the traditional session carbonated is what I'm into right now, and also delving into doing different piments.
Okay. So if you're doing pie mint, and obviously we've talked about pie mints, a show or two ago with Peter Bakalik, and do you buy juice for that, or are you buying grapes, and what's your process?
So I've been just getting juice from a homebrew store out in California.
Okay. And then are you fermenting it as a wine first and then adding honey to it, or blending it with a mead, or are you adding honey to the juice and fermenting both together? What are you doing?
Yeah, I've had pretty good success with a few batches I've done, just doing it all together and not doing the separate and blending. But also I'm using several different honeys to get complexity in my pie mints. The big red pie mints, I've done, Cabernet, and I just did a Petite Syrah, and I'm using some Zambian honey in there to get some tobacco notes and leather, and just, maybe incorporating a little bit of chocolate, something that has some chocolate into it, just to make the pie mint really complex.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sounds good.
It's kind of the opposite spectrum of a nice light session sparkling mead, but I like them both.
Sure. And I think you mentioned that you were doing some cryoconcentration for your apple juice at times.
Yeah, anytime I'm adding secondary and I don't want to dilute, whether it's fruit, berries, apple juice, I'm freeze concentrating that, so I'm adding as little water and the most flavor as possible.
Great. Yeah, that's a fairly standard technique for myself as well. And Vicky, that's why I told you should get 7 gallons when you go buy your juice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Toss a couple of gallons in the freezer, pull them out, let them thaw, 30 to 50% of the way, and then just dump the rest and keep that and use that for your back sweetening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing. I gotta work out the numbers on that with the strawberry juice and the peach juice that I've got, because I only bought 4 gallons of those. So
Mm-hmm.
I may end up only making like a 3-gallon batch just so I have some for back sweetening.
Sure. But yeah, that's a good way to go. I don't know, Adam, are you doing that as well?
No, I freeze the fruit and then just put it in. I haven't cryoconcentrated anything before.
Okay.
I like the idea of it, but I'm typically adding a lot of my fruit in secondary and just letting it age on it to get the fresh flavor, unless it's unless it's grape must or cider or various berries. A lot of my stuff goes in secondary.
So if you're putting it in secondary, are you stabilizing before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now that you're saying that, I mean, like, cryoconcentrated juice is probably a really good thing to add in secondary.
Well, it certainly works well. And, of course, the other thing that it does for you is it's no muss.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, if you're going to age on fruit in the secondary after you've stabilized, I mean, great. It'll extract tons of fruit, flavor, and everything else. But, of course, you're going to have some pretty high losses.
Yeah.
Because you don't get the extraction in secondary that you get when it's in primary, when the yeast is chewing away on it. Right? Yeah. So your losses are going to be higher due to pulp, I think.
Yeah, I've got a banana walnut session going right now, and I'm going to lose about 2 gallons.
You have a banana bread session going? Seriously?
Yeah, why not? I think it'll be something like that. But yeah, the banana.
Why not? I love banana bread. It's awesome.
Why does that sound weird?
It doesn't sound weird. I'm just jealous.
Oh, okay.
I like banana bread.
Tasty, but banana can be a bitch to clear.
It can be a pain,
yes. Yeah. You can just accept the idea that it's not going to be clear.
Yeah.
It's true, too.
Yeah, I'm just going to take the loss. But I mean, I've got a good 3.5 gallons or so that's fine and clear, and it'll be okay. But all that banana gunk on the bottom.
Banana
And this
sludge.
was using a hop bag even, because I like to age on the skins too. So I
Yep.
pulled everything out, but it still got out of there.
You like to age on the banana skins?
Yeah. You get more flavor that way.
Yeah.
Really?
You get the oils out of it, and yeah.
It doesn't come out bitter?
No, it's super banana-y.
Really?
You've obviously never smoked banana skins, Kev.
Well,
They're not bitter at all.
That is true. And I don't know if I want to explore that.
You really don't. Yeah.
It's not pretty when you pull them out.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I did mine in a bag. It was a bag of sludge.
Yeah.
And then it took like 5 years to clear.
I mean, I guess what's astonishing to me about that, and I trust you guys, I mean, that's fine, but, like if I peel a banana and I bite into the skin a little bit, it's like, oh my God, it's just so bitter. That doesn't
let it go. You gotta let it ripen, then freeze it, cut it into medallions, drop it in there. This is my second time doing a banana mead. It adds a lot of sugar, like a lot more than you'd think.
Yeah.
So
I'll be darned.
Yeah, the recipe that I followed said to let them ripen until they're black, and then use the skins. And that I don't recall there being any kind of bitterness in that at all from it.
Yeah.
Because I think the tannin, the squeaky teeth thing you get from banana skins, is more for the less ripe banana. I don't find I get much of that with a really ripe banana, especially if the skin's starting to get spotty.
Okay. Oh, cool.
So banana bread worthy. Banana. Yeah.
Yeah. I got in 10 pounds of bananas. I got 16 gravity points, which is I was really surprised this time.
Well, you'll have to share that when you get it finished. I'm very curious. Yeah,
I'm worried that it's already kind of edging on semi-sweet, and it's got a lot of body from the skins and the meat of the banana. I gotta add some honey, otherwise it just kind of tastes like banana and walnuts. You're not getting much honey out of there.
Allan, are you able to make use of some of the local ingredients? I hesitate to call them indigenous, but like prickly pear or anything like that. Do you ever play around with those kind of things? And actually, can you make kind of a cyser style mead out of a prickly pear?
I've done a couple of prickly pear meads, just because they're so easy to get a hold of, and it's free. So
I love how you say it's easy to get a hold of, because they're not easy to get a hold of.
No, they really are. Yeah, I spent weeks picking those little spines out of my fingers because I didn't know enough to wear gloves.
Dip them in boiling water.
Yeah, well, no, you don't pick them without gloves on first. Nobody told me that, and I picked them, and those things are like ridiculous.
Some things should not have to be told to people.
I know. They didn't look like they had spines on them. They're just little hairs, right? Wrong. Yeah.
Nope, those hairs will stay in your fingers for like weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we really sidetracked Allan.
Sorry,
so
Allan.
let's let him go.
Go back to prickly pears.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So prickly pear, I found, I've done a couple of batches, and it's if you don't really do a good job of processing them, they're really, really earthy to the point where I'm not crazy about them. So I've found ways to process them to get rid of some of the earthiness, and some of that is doing the cryo or freeze reduction. I get a lot of filtering through the ice that forms when I do that with the prickly pear juice, which it comes out a lot cleaner and less earthy, which I like. But prickly pear in itself is a pretty strong, especially aromatically and somewhat flavor-wise, and it can easily overpower other ingredients if you're not careful.
So what? How would you describe the flavor? I've never had one, so I'm curious.
Yeah, it's all on its own. You just have to try it.
Yeah.
I'll I'll send you a bottle of mine if you shoot me your address.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. I won't turn that down.
Yeah, right. I was glad that I hadn't made one, because when I tried it at a competition, and it was a very good prickly pear mead, it won a medal, but I found that the flavor is just not what I don't know. It wasn't what I was expecting, and it really didn't work for me. But then on the other hand, I don't like tequila either, so there's that.
I would say that if you do send one, it'll probably end up on a Friday night mead toast, and it'll probably be if it comes anytime soon while the weather's still halfway decent here, and I can get a couple of people over here, we'll sit around the fire pit and share the bottle, because up here people don't know what that stuff tastes like, so that's kind of a fun thing to share around.
Yeah, shoot me PM me your address, and I'll send you a couple bottles.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome. Thanks.
I'm guessing there must be. Sorry. I'm guessing there must be a difference between a fresh prickly pear and one that's been shipped a couple thousand miles, because I can't really figure out what they taste like. They're lovely color, but they're like dragon fruit for me. They don't really have a taste.
Oh, they have a very prominent taste. So something went awry there.
It might be like if I get Georgia peaches, they're crap, but if I get Niagara peaches, they're awesome. So that's what I'm guessing.
You have to pick them when they're really, really ripe, at the point where they've turned kind of brown and they're almost starting to get wrinkly on the outside. That's
probably
when you want to pick them.
Okay, that's probably it then. Probably the ones that I have ever had, because they're in a produce store in Canada, have been picked way too early and have been, ripening on the truck or whatever. So that's very likely that's what the thing is.
Yeah, huge difference in the flavor profile if they're not fully ripe.
Okay, thank you very much for confirming that. Now I have a goal next time I'm anywhere really, really south that has prickly pears.
Hey, Vicky, sounds like Adam got dropped from the call.
Adam got dropped? Okay.
Yeah.
Does Adam want to come back?
It sounds like it.
Okay.
Let me just double check that.
He's not he didn't text me, so I didn't realize.
Yeah, he just pinged me. I don't know if he has your info or what.
Yeah, he's got me on Facebook, but yeah, hang on, I'll add him back. There we go. Should be here in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't get any notification with somebody. There you are. Sorry about that. It doesn't say anything to me like, oh, hey, this call dropped. It just drops, and if you're not looking at it, you don't see it.
So now one thing I'm curious about. So I bought some blackberries just recently, and I'm kind of disappointed with the flavor. I haven't made anything with them yet. I'm actually thinking about adding them to a cider as just an add-in ingredient. But how do you all feel about blackberries in general? I mean, or no, specifically blackberries. I mean, because like raspberries, they're bright and luscious, and black caps are amazing, but blackberries are kind of
tasteless.
Yeah.
I find that too until you ferment them. When they ferment, they are magic.
They are.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They're
even in a fruit basket, when one was stuck up against a piece of pineapple or something like that. The berry itself tasted like nothing, but the pineapple was magic. So I don't know what it is. Maybe I get defective ones too, but yeah.
Okay.
That's what I find with them. And
Alan
anybody who's
Adam,
got other
have
things,
you guys
please let us know.
Worked with them?
No, I've only worked with blackberry honey. I haven't worked with the fruit yet.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
Mahoney says blackberries are great, and he's yelling at me.
Yeah. And then Josh is calling Whitey a dork.
Well, but
that's
dork,
but
so
that is
that's okay.
but that's okay. That's why we love him.
I mean, he made a beet mead, and because of the fact that I tasted that beet mead and it was actually really good.
I wonder if that was the one that won a medal at Mazer.
Probably, but
I judged that.
I almost made one today.
Oh gosh.
We pickled beets today. I almost pulled a few beets off and decided to make one, but then I thought, no, I have way too many things fermenting right now. So
I have 10
Next year.
pounds of beets in the fridge right now.
Yeah.
So tempting.
I mean, I know a lot of people think it's weird, but
Whitey's saying try black peppercorns with the blackberries. Yeah, that
okay.
blackberries and black
yeah,
peppercorns
that'd
are
be good.
really good together.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Blackberries are rich when you ferment them. They're rich, and there's an earthy thing going on there. And
You've got this gorgeous fruity thing that happens too.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't find happens at all with just the raw fruit. Like every time I've tried one raw, I've been very disappointed in it. But every time I've fermented them, they've been amazing.
So another friend of mine messaged me. I got to go back and look at that now. Hold on. It's actually worth mentioning here. Let me just go find this. She was asking me for some advice on something, and then as part of our discussion, she added something to the discussion, and I was like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. Kind of like that.
As you got 14 conversations going on at any given times. Oh, yeah, Matt's pointing out Melavito's Murder of Crows, which is an amazing mead. And, yeah, it's blackberries and black pepper. It's very, very good. It's one of my favorites.
Well, and we do know that Sergio really likes pink peppercorns.
Yes, he does. Right? Yeah. I'm a big fan of pepper as an adjunct to sweet flavors.
You mean peppercorns or pepper as in... Okay.
Peppercorns, but I have found it to be, in almost all cases, an amazing addition because that bite from the pepper is so complementary to a sweetness.
And I absolutely adore it too, despite the fact that I don't put black pepper on my food like ever, except buttered zucchini, but that's it. Everything else, black pepper is gross.
I found this conversation, and she was asking about making a blueberry mead, and I made one, a session mead, and my conclusion with blueberries was that they're just so middle of the road. You know, there's not really that much going on there. That they're good, but they're not great. And I'm planning to use the blueberry I made really for blending as a mid-palate enhancement to something else.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they add mouthfeel, but the flavor is not really that strong or particularly distinctive, I suppose, unless you're using a really large amount of them, you know.
Or wild ones.
Well, that maybe.
The domestic ones are kind of tasteless. I totally understand.
Yeah, they kind of are. And, you know, like even when you buy them in the store, the supposedly good ones, and you put them on your cereal or ice cream or whatever, they're still kind of bland. So we were talking over that, and then she said, well, I think, you know, I might add some lime to that.
That'd perk it up.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Oh, Matt.
I've done blueberry lime a couple times. It's worked out really well.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I have fun with and I would put this in a cyser actually, and I've got some, so I might try it. Is Gallengale, which is it's an ancient spice. You don't see it much in common usage, but it's popular in you see it in the Middle East, Egypt, that kind of thing. It's still used there. Is somebody like flipping paper or something? I'm hearing all this like kind of noise in the background. It's weird. So one of you got a beard you're rubbing up against your microphone?
I do not.
I know you don't, Kev. But
yeah. I may grow one this year. You'll see this.
It's cold enough, you know. But anyway, Gallengale is kind of like ginger and pepper. So it's got some of the characters of both, and it's really
blow your face off spice kind of ginger.
Yeah, it's pretty intense, and so you don't need a lot of it. But I use it when I make a sweet spiced wine that's from the Henry VIII kitchens in a cookbook that I have when I do my living history stuff, and it adds an amazing flavor. And now this is using like a base wine that we add sugar and spices to, so it's not a mead in any way, shape, or form. But that's how I discovered the spice, and I've got a little container of it, and I've been going, I need to add this to a mead. So But I think it would be really good in a cyser because you got that ginger, and ginger and apple's always good together, and that little bit of bite from the pepper. I think it would be really amazing.
Cool. Some
Yeah.
fun things to play with.
Yeah.
And some of these things are kind of easy to muck around with just because, well, I've got 3 gallons of this mead already made and put aside.
Yep.
And all I got to do is pour a glass and grab a couple of these ingredients and just see what happens. And if I like it, then I know what I want to do next time.
There you go. So let's bring this around a little bit since we've been off on sort of a sidebar on fruit.
Yeah.
Other fruit. So we start with your basic cyser, and we've talked about oaking. We've talked about some of the other things. But what are what do you guys like to do when you're bringing another fruit into the picture with cyser?
Well, I personally have never added another fruit to a cyser because if I make a cyser, it's probably targeted toward a competition.
Okay.
I've done it once, cranberry and raspberry. I thought it turned out all right. The raspberry was subdued, I think, by the cranberry and the apple. But I mean, I'd like to do it again. I mean, there's a whole bunch of fruits that would obviously go great with it. Spices are kind of my go-to if I want to make. If the cyser is not screaming cyser to me, the spices have made those particular cysers better.
Okay.
And usually like baking spices, like nutmeg, cinnamon, vanilla, allspice.
Those are the ones I
clove.
like. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Alan?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Kevin. I pretty much, if I'm going to make a cyser, I want the apple to be the star of the show, and it's usually for comp.
So one thing I would say, though, and Adam's comment kind of made me think about this. If it's not screaming cyser to me, well, I haven't really had one go that way yet, but, I've got probably 3 underway at the moment. And is it likely that all 3 of these are going to turn out like all-star cysers? Probably not. So if that's the case, I may have, 1 or 2 that I can play with. And in that case, there's a whole bunch of choices that I would throw at them for other fruit. Probably the first one I'd do would be lingonberries.
Yeah.
I'd probably try some raspberry or blackberry.
Mm-hmm.
The other one I was kind of thinking about is either aronia berry or maybe even black currant, although the black currant will probably just totally overshadow the apples. And for that matter, the aronia berry probably would too.
Unless you go really, really low on them, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But I think raspberry would be a really nice pairing because you'd cut the tartness and still get the color.
And I've had folks locally, because I make a fair amount of cider as well, and so I get together with people who like to do that. And tart cherry is a great choice.
It's a great one,
with
yeah.
apples. It's a great choice for apples, honestly. As long as you can keep it in balance, it really does some neat things to the apple juice.
Yeah, now I remember, I've done cherries with a cyser before, and that was pretty good. And like I said, I've got whiteys that I'm drinking right now. That's great. Yeah, cherries seem like a very natural fruit to pair up if you just want to do a couple, just one fruit with apples.
Mm-hmm. And in that case, what do you think, Adam? Would you add the cherries secondary?
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. Cherries seem to ferment just fine, but
yeah.
I probably would. Yeah, I would.
Just to keep that flavor sort of intact,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you don't want it to be like a cyser with cherries,
right.
Like the fermented apples and then the tart cherries. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah, I like cherries and apples together a lot. They're really good that way.
they do work well.
Yeah.
Of course, another like a spice type of addition works well with apples is adding a little vanilla. Can really round out some of the flavors and kind of counterbalance some of the acids if you're using, pretty acidic apples.
Mm-hmm.
Probably for most of the people around the country, acidic apples are not really an option. But up here, you can definitely get those kind of things. And so having some other things in your toolkit that allow you to help balance that is kind of a nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what would happen if you made a cyser and then aged it on like baked apples. Like,
That would be good.
Yeah, I wonder what that would add. That could be really interesting.
You're probably gonna get more of a caramel character because of the caramelized baked apples. I wouldn't bake your apples in butter, which is usually what I do when I bake apples.
Yeah.
But stewed apples.
I wonder if they would just get dried out. I don't know.
Well, if you stewed them, that would work really good because basically all you're really doing when you're stewing them is cooking the apples in a little bit of apple juice.
Mm-hmm.
So, with some brown sugar and you could even throw some ginger in there and you get that caramelization. That's going to add some depth to it, I think.
Probably be similar to doing I kind of did a bochet with apple juice. And I used that for back sweetening, although I really need to go and dig out that batch and see how it tastes. It's been a couple of years.
How did you do the so you just did caramelized honey and then the apple cider?
Actually, I had a crock pot full of apple cider and I just let it go until it was half the volume.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was it cracked my crock pot liner, so it may not be the best thing to do. But
see, that's what I was thinking too, because I caramelize my honey in a slow cooker, and then I was thinking, what if you just wedged up apples and put it in there and then aged it on those apples? I mean that let that go for handful of hours, and would that would be still considered a cyser? I wonder if that would be more experimental. But I'm guessing cyser still.
Well, I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think there's anything about that takes that out from a competition standpoint.
I think that'd be okay. I mean, they're cooked, but
nothing that says you can't cook them.
Your
all it
your
says
fruit,
is apples. It doesn't say, but they have to be uncooked. So
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
another
partially
thing you can
steam
do.
the crab apples.
It's another thing you can do if you get like a bland cider that after it ferments, it's just a little bit lifeless because it doesn't have the acidity and tannin that you're kind of hoping for. Do something like that. It could be kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing homemade caramel and bringing that into a cyser. Yeah, and because caramel's easy to make, and I think that would be a lot of fun.
Too much cream to put into a mead.
Another thing that might be kind of fun to add is maple syrup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. I've got a smoked maple syrup that I picked up somewhere.
Very complementary to apple flavors,
It would, yeah.
I was just thinking is how you like rim glasses with salt like margaritas, or there's a beer at the state fair here. It's a mini donut beer, and they rim it with cinnamon sugar. What if you rimmed it with caramel? And put a cyser in there.
I'd be all over that.
Hey, now if you're thinking about doing a, bringing some maple syrup into the picture, I saw Bobby posted that he's got a maple syrup deal coming through AMMA after the first of the year. So I'm waiting for that. I'm saving my pennies for that. I love syrup.
Yeah, we got a cyser Acerglyn.
Yeah, cyser Glyn.
I wonder what that would be like. Cyser Glyn, yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But
with just a hint of cinnamon.
Yeah. Oh, it's got. Yeah, I wouldn't go without cinnamon.
Yeah, I'd go for try to mimic like apple pancake with something like that.
Oh God, yeah.
I get some. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Josh Holbrook is saying, from a competition standpoint, cooking and/or caramelizing apples would probably qualify as a special process that may push you into experimental category.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, like you're caramelizing the honey, so that's going to be experimental.
Mm-hmm. But he's also saying the last style guidelines are still listing ale yeast as a possible experimental mead. So, They need to
Here's your
update
grain
the
of
style.
salt.
Yeah, they need to
That's
update the
weird.
style
Get rid of that.
guidelines. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes no sense because yeast is yeast. I mean, sure,
Well,
there's varieties.
yeah,
and they
but
do
those
different things, but
those style guidelines haven't been substantially updated in
oh, right,
quite a
I
while.
know.
Yeah. And
And
yeah.
for the
Yeast is
most
yeast.
part,
You
they
say
don't
that.
need to be.
Yeah, no,
You
that's
say that,
true.
but did you taste Tom's sourdough mead?
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
right? No, you're right, Kevin. That for the most part, they don't need to be, but there's some areas where they could use some tweaking.
Right.
For evolving standards and
Sure.
whatnot. But
Yeah.
I don't envy the BJCP folks and Chris and for the amount of
Yeah,
work that they
it's
have to
a
put in. That's
tremendous
a
amount of work,
tremendous
and
amount
you
of work.
can't make
Yeah.
everybody happy no matter
Nope.
what you do.
Nope, you can't. I think 99% of it is pretty darn good. But yeah, that's probably something we should ask BJCP. Can we caramelize
Yeah.
the apples?
Right. Well, thinking about yeast a little bit or whatnot, how many cysers have you guys made with wild yeast? Now, I know, Adam, you've done some stuff with wild yeast on some of your ciders, but have you done it with a cyser?
No, just that one thing I was telling you about. Me and my father-in-law just
Okay.
dumping all the gunk. No, I've never worked with a wild yeast.
What about you, Alan?
Nope. Pretty straightforward. Pretty straightforward answer there. No, haven't.
When you get your juice from the cidery, has it been maybe pasteurized is the wrong word, but has it been treated in some way so that there's no live yeast in there?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, as soon as I pick it up, I hit it with K-Meta.
Okay.
And let it sit for a day, and I also keep it cold. And I try to ferment it as soon as possible. But yeah, I don't really know the answer to that.
Okay. So I have a strain of wild yeast here that I've actually had going now for nearly 3 years, and I've made some cider with that. I haven't made a cyser yet, but I've made cider with it, and it just is amazing. And I want to keep it going. I'm kind of thinking I might have to try this on a cyser and see what happens.
Why not? That's how we learn, right?
Well, money.
Yeah, well, there's that. Make a
If it
small
goes
batch.
bad,
Make a
it's
small
like,
batch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Start small. Test run.
That's where test batches come in.
I don't do a lot of test batches.
Well, start.
I know.
Maybe now's a good
I know a
time
lot
to
of guys-
try one.
I know working with wild yeast is just letting cysers ferment naturally is kind of popular. I think Josh Mahoney does that exclusively, and he's done really well with his cysers. So
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had a couple of batches of cider that I was pressing be like halfway fermented before I actually got it into the fermentation vessel. So that's why I use K1V.
I've worked with some cider that was already starting to ferment, and so I tried to pitch a little bit more than I typically do, and it just I don't know what it was, but it ended up being quite sulfury. The only 2 batches I've ever dumped have been cysers, and they were both those two batches that were already starting to go.
Okay.
I didn't want to crash and then stabilize. They were going pretty steady. So when I got them, the sulfur just never went away. I let it sit for maybe 4 months or so, and finally I was just like, I need the carboys.
One of the things we did not talk about is nutrient additions.
Oh yeah.
And of course, cider, or I keep saying cider, and I really should be saying apple juice.
Yeah.
It wants to throw sulfur if the yeast is not treated well. So, Adam, are you doing it like a standard SNA type protocol, or what are you doing when you make a cyser?
Yeah, I am, and I every time I do it, I'm like, I probably don't need to do this much, but I do. I know there's so much nutrient already in the cider or in the apple juice, but I do. I just roll with it anyway.
Alan?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I do the standard nutrient additions, but again, with my ciders, I'm fermenting really, really cold, QA23, and then 55 to 58 degree range, and I haven't had any of the sulfur issues with that.
Yeah, that's
I
always.
treat mine like a hydromel, so I pitch my nutrients all up front.
Even when you're doing full ABV?
Well, no, if I'm doing that, I'm probably staggered, but if I'm doing a lower ABV like 1060 or less, I'm just pitching it all up front because you can't keep up with it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say when you guys did the hydromel stuff, that seemed to be the general consensus was pitch it all up front.
Right. And my cysers typically aren't that much bigger than a hydromel. They're like 1080 to maybe 1090. So the difference is not that huge. And I don't necessarily worry too much about the day 3, day 7. I'm probably going to do day 1 and day 2.
Yeah,
although I'm adding a little more.
When I've just done cider that's just being cider and not being cyser, I actually have had it go before I got the nutrients in. It was done.
Oh, yeah. It's totally believable. I mean, most apple juice comes in around 1040 to 1045 gravity. So
might have always been like 1050.
Well, you may have different apples, but
yeah,
there are some apples that'll come in at 1080, but not very many of them. Oh, man. I'm trying to think. What else do we need to cover? Adam, Allan, I mean, do you guys have any questions you want to talk about here?
We haven't talked about, is everybody oxygenating? And how often?
Yes. Good question. I do. To some degree, it depends a little on the gravity. So if I'm at 1060 or below, I'll oxygenate with pure oxygen for 60 seconds. And I have a 2-foot long wand with a sintered stone on the bottom. And I just sit there and stir the must by hand while it's oxygenating. So that's my method. If it's a higher gravity, then I'll probably oxygenate for about 90 seconds. And if it's a real high gravity, like my ice cider, for instance, I'll oxygenate it 2 to 3 times. So at 12 to 18 hours, and then again at 24 to 26 hours.
Yeah, I O2, and I hit it with O2 pre-pitch, and a lot of times I'll do it at 12-hour mark the next morning. And then I've got a power drill and aeration wand.
Yeah, that's what I have. I love those things.
Whenever I add my nutrients, I do that, and I just sit above it until my arms kind of get tired.
Yeah, another question that sometimes I think about is when people are saying they're oxygenating at however many hours, is that hours after they pitched or hours after they've gotten visible, sure signs of fermentation?
After pitch.
Yeah, pitch.
What do you think?
Sometimes if I make a mead, like if I pitch at like 2 p.m., I'm not gonna get up at 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. and hit it again with O2. I'll just wait till I get up the next morning.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's both.
If you think about the yeast life cycle, you're really trying to provide them with that building block of oxygen while they're reproducing. So you don't want to keep hitting them if they're not reproducing, but boy, you sure want to give them something to work with right up front.
We used to, back when they first came, when people first started using staggered nutrients, they didn't even call it SNA then. It was just you put it in when, you put in your stuff when you pitch, and then when you got visible fermentation, then you put in another, and there was oxygenate, adding oxygen until the 2/3 break was always what they said. And that was kind of what I went with for a long time. And it's changed somewhat since then, but basically it came down to at the 2/3 break, stop adding oxygen.
Yeah, I think now it's definitely a lot earlier than
Yeah,
that.
Like
it
halfway
is.
is
Yeah.
what I usually go by.
48 hours in a high gravity must, you can probably be okay.
Yeah.
But at 48 hours in a 1060 to 65 gravity must, you're not okay. You're going to have leftover oxygen that the yeast is not going to consume.
Right. That's going to cause a problem later.
And
But-
that's the balance, right?
Yeah.
Some of it is experience, and you got to have some bad experiences to know where to stop.
Yeah. This is where the
asking-
hydromelon pitch up front thing comes in handy. We're done.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, you know what to expect, right? You know it's going to rip through it.
Yep.
And you don't have to worry about it.
So Josh is asking, should sulfur during primary be considered normal in Cysers or a sign of yeast stress?
I think a little bit is okay, but you shouldn't get much. If you get a lot of sulfur, I think it does mean yeast stress. Yes.
Yeah.
So Adam commented that he thought apple juice had a lot of nutrients in it. I don't think that's correct. That's certainly not been my experience. I think it's somewhat similar to honey. I think the nutrition that's available there is fairly low. The sugars that are present in apples, I believe, are primarily fructose, and it's a very, very simple and sweet sugar.
It is, yeah.
And there's just not a lot there for the yeast to work with, which is why nutrients are so important to add. At least in my opinion, that's been my experience.
Yeah, I was just assuming that it had in there. I mean, I've always had its normal amount of nutrients.
Right. Yeah, and I don't treat it even like some of the fruit meads that we make where we want to, say, cut down the nutrient additions by 50% or 60% or 40% or whatever your particular method is. I just treat it as though it's honey and I add the full amount.
I just found a reference table for yen in cider apples, so I'll put that up on the thing.
Great.
But it looks like it's double digits, not triple digits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so
there's a paper on yen in cider as well. So we'll put that up as well.
Great.
Yeah, you were saying?
John Record was just asking, does anybody use the apple skins for tannins? And the answer is yes. We were probably before you were on, on the chat, we were talking about methods for grinding and then eventually pressing the apple pomace into juice. So if you have the ability to do your own grind and press, you can leave the apples sit after they've been ground for an hour to 24 hours, and that allows the pomace to pick up tannins from the skins and the seeds prior to pressing, and it does make a real difference. The other option is to ferment on the flesh, including the skins and the seeds, and that makes a big difference. But it's also kind of messy, and it helps to have a little experience with some of this stuff to know how to calculate the yield that you're going to get out of that scenario.
So if you're doing it that method, are you not adding any potassium metabisulfite?
I do prior to the fermentation, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's really hard to stir all that stuff, right? Because it's just, it's pomace.
Glop.
Yeah. But it works. And then after 24 hours, I'll pitch yeast and start the fermentation and let it go for 3 to 4 days. I've only done it twice, but it turned out really nice. So it's definitely
cool.
something I'll repeat.
So
And then I'll
treating it like just a normal cider cyser.
Yeah, I'm treating it like a wine. Like I'm making a wine on grapes.
Okay.
Same idea.
That's kind of how I do it with crab apples.
Yeah, I think the difference there is you don't have quite as much water. Like grapes, there's a lot of water in grapes.
Yeah, crab apples not so much.
Right, it's not that hard to punch down the cap and stir a little bit, because there's so much liquid in there. With apple pomace, when it's ground, there's not that much liquid, and so that's kind of the real challenge there, is to get a even mix and get a good fermentation in there. It's definitely doable, and it produces some nice results, but it's definitely more difficult.
So AJ, with the crab apples, are you talking about like the little guys or like the chestnut crabs?
Well, I've never actually seen the chestnut crabs. I get the little guys that are somewhere between, usually between a walnut and a golf ball.
Oh wow!
And bright red with the really red flesh that stays pink even through the thing. So I get very pink crab apples.
And will you do just 100% crab apple? How does that turn out?
Actually, it turns out really nice, but the thing is, I don't do 100% crab apple. I usually do it the way I would do a fruit wine, and I'll use 5 pounds per gallon or something like that, and make it up with water, because there's really not a lot of water in those things. And normally, I don't actually put them through my press. I will steam them a little bit so that it opens up the fruit. I cut them all in half and then I steam them, and by the time they're done fermenting, there's nothing but a bag of goo left. So it does get all the way through the apples, but I only steam them gently so they don't really get a cooked flavor. And I don't tend to use just crab apple, because you have to put in some water to steam them, and then you have to add some water to dilute them and be able to punch your fruit bag down and stuff. Whereas when I make
them as well, and then
the
hanging the bag and dripping, or how are you extracting?
Depends if I'm feeling impatient. Sometimes I'll squeeze the bag, but usually I just hang it from one of my cupboards and let it drip over the thing, unless the fruit flies are being pesky that day. Yeah, much of my life is fruit fly dependent. But yeah, when I'm doing, I will also put crab apples in my regular apple in my Cysers, but not as much. And sometimes I'll throw a bag of I have them in the freezer, so sometimes I'll put them in the because they've been frozen. I'll put them in the fruit bag and take them out, and then press the fruit bag when I'm doing other things, and then put the juice back in. But there have also been a couple of times when I have thrown some crab apples that have been frozen through the grinder with the regular apples and done them like that, but maybe 10% at the most of a full batch of Cyser.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it's like it's like me adding what is it? Buckwheat honey. I like it a little bit, but not entirely. I don't think a mead made with nothing but crab apple straight juice would be as good as one that's not quite so pungent.
Sure, gotta cut it down with some water. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the same thing with using Concord grapes. They're much better when you use them at 1/3 or so, rather than full strength for mead. Because oh my goodness, they're grapey.
So this has been really good. I've been jotting things down. and now it's going to be I'm going to go down to the farmer's market this weekend and look at all the different ciders and go, I need to taste that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to let me taste that. Well, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to make wine with it, so just shut up and let me taste it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be buying multiple gallons, so I really need to taste this first.
Yeah, so I don't know what it's like there, but I just bought some cider from one of the really big cider producers here in the state, and they made me sign a release when I got the cider.
Really?
Because it's because it's not pasteurized.
Oh,
yeah, because you don't want it pasteurized, and they won't sorbate it, because most of the stuff we get here has been sorbated.
It's because here there's some law. It's like a health code law that they can't sell unpasteurized juice for drinking.
No.
They can do it if it's to be fermented to an alcoholic beverage.
Okay,
That's
fair.
Permissible.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. First time I've ever had to sign a release to get cider.
Yeah.
Yeah. I picked up from those same people a couple years ago. They didn't have me, but I picked up. It was like they were literally pressing their last cider of the year, and the guy brought me in their giant refrigerated room.
Yeah.
It was bare, and then there was just 5 single 1 gallons in the corner of this massive room. And he's like, "Those are yours."
Yep.
Like, all right.
Yeah.
There you
That's
go.
kind of what this was like too. The whole room was completely empty and spotless. And then he just pulled out this hose and let her rip,
I miss being able to go to the orchard and just get it like right then and there. I mean, there was an orchard that my great grandfather owned, and then that passed to some friends of the family when he passed. And I used to just go there, and I mean, that cider had been pressed that day, and it was great. But where I live now in North Carolina, we don't grow apples down here on the Piedmont. You have to go to the mountains, and that's a 4-hour drive. So farmers market it is, but this is the state farmers market. People are coming from all over North Carolina, so we get a lot of mountain folk bringing down. That's where we get the Christmas trees come in there. So
Sure. Well, you ought to be able to find something good there.
Sure,
and hopefully they've got some heirloom varieties that they're bringing down too.
That's my hope. Yeah, I'm gonna go through and just kind of taste them all and see if I can find some, some ones that I can mix together. Maybe a gallon or so of a higher acid one, and then some 2-3 gallons of something else. And I don't know. We'll have to see. Don't know what I'll find. It'll be an adventure.
It's kind of how my apples end up being, because I don't know what I'll find because they're all feral.
Yeah. This has been great. I mean, it's a fun subject, and there's a lot we can do with this. And we've got feedback coming from different parts of the country, which is way cool. Or parts of the continent, actually, since we got AJ too.
Well, good deal.
Yeah. And we've kept Adam up for the whole 2 hours.
We did. I'm a little astonished.
Yeah.
I was
He's
having
going to
a
be
good time
tired tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, well, as long as you're having a good time. I kept expecting to hear you start snoring, I know you have to get up really early. So.
Well, you know what? This is good training for him.
Yeah.
Because he's got a baby on the way here.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Any week now.
Yeah, any day. Yeah.
Any day.
Well, that's the end of your sleep schedule.
Yeah, exactly. So this is good training.
No sleep for you for at least a year.
Unless you're really lucky and the baby sleeps through the night. It happens sometimes.
It does happen occasionally.
Really, really lucky.
Yeah. I was blessed with one that didn't do the early morning stuff. I literally had never, the whole time that my daughter was young enough that Christmas was exciting on Christmas morning, never had to get up early. I would get up, we'd eat breakfast, have some tea, watch a little television, and be 11 o'clock. Finally, don't you think we ought to wake the kid up? My friends would be like, my kid gets me up at 4 a.m. I'm like, sucks to be you, man. We've already had our cinnamon rolls, and But yeah, that's congratulations, man. That's cool. Is this first baby?
Second.
Second. Okay, so you've been there and done that already.
Yeah, we're better prepared now.
Yeah. Yeah. They're still all different, but yeah, at least you have an inkling.
Though, really.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah, they're all unique, and they all do things a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Vicky, AJ, Kevin, it was great talking to you. Allan, awesome meeting you, man.
Yeah, good having you back.
This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining us, Adam.
Big time. Yeah, thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Take care.
Night.
Take it easy.
Well, Allan, I'll shoot you an address, and I look forward to trying out one of those prickly pears. That'll be fun.
They're unique.
And I'll return the favor. I do have your address since I had to mail you a medal.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that are going to get address requests from me. I finally got the Chamberlain is clearing. I threw the clearing stuff in, the super clear in there, and now I wait.
Yeah. Well, at least super clear doesn't take too long.
No, I threw it in Sunday night late, and I was going to go at it last night and thought, no, it said 24 to 48, so I'll go ahead and let it wait one more, and I'll do it tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So we shall see. But then I've been putting it off because I'm looking at it going, I got to clean bottles. I hate cleaning bottles.
Oh, yeah. That is fun.
I hate cleaning bottles. I'm going to probably about half of it is going to go in normal size bottles. The rest is going to go in all of the growler bottles that I have.
Oh, okay.
Just because it's easier to bottle that way.
It's easy to bottle that way, yeah. Maybe not all of it. I don't know. That doesn't hold off oxidation too well. So we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, bottle cleaning. Yuck. Hate it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Allan, man, thanks for coming back on. I appreciate it. We wanted to get some more perspective on ciders, and you guys Cysers, and you guys brought a lot to the table today.
No problem. I appreciate it. You guys have a good evening, and we'll talk to you later.
You too.
All right.
Thanks
Take care.
again, man.
Thanks so much.
Okay, so we actually have like a bunch of stuff on the schedule coming up, surprisingly. I went hunting the other day and came up with more than I thought I would. Starting tomorrow, MeadCon Online starts. They're going to be having couple speakers over the next, it goes till November 18th, so it pretty much goes for about a month, and they'll be having 2 or 3 speakers a week. And the schedule is up. The link is on our on the episode page, and you can find it there, or you can just go to American Mead Makers Association on Facebook, and there's an event on the events. It's there, and they have the whole schedule and everything. It's really reasonably priced. Definitely check it out. It's not as great as when we can all go to Colorado and hang out for a couple days, but it's the next best thing, and you're still going to get amazing amounts of really awesome information. So definitely check that out. Also tomorrow, October 14th, the St. Ambrose Meadery in Beulah, Michigan has Bill Frary coming in to play live music. October 15th, Honeybrook Meadery in Castle Rock, Colorado has Brandon Sipes live music. October 16th, Grimsby Hollow Meadery in Middleville, Michigan has Drink Mead, Know Things. This is a series that they do. And this one's called The Blade of the Pirate. So that'll be really cool. There's links for all of this on the episode page, so you can track this down. October 17th, St. Ambrose in Beulah, Michigan, Ted Allen and Ron Getz, live music. October 17th, Western Reserve Meadery in Cleveland, Ohio is going to be at Northeast Ohio Gala. October 18th, Black Rabbit Mead in Reno, Nevada. This is, as far as I know, the only meadery in Nevada. Yoga and Meadmosas with Rihanna. So, okay, have your yoga and then a Meadmosa. Hey, what could go wrong? And October 23rd, Honeybrook in Castle Rock, Colorado. Marty Nightingale, live music. October 23rd, Big Lost Meadery in Gillette, Wyoming. Live music with Kellen Smith. Honeybrook again on October 30th. These guys are getting a regular schedule there. And if you're anywhere down in the Denver Springs area and you haven't been to Honeybrook, you need to just get your butt over there and check them out. They make great mead. I've had their mead. It's amazing. They're having Josh Blackburn live music. October 31st, Halloween, Grimsby Hollow Meadery in Middleville, Michigan is having a Beetlejuice dinner party. That should be fun. November 6th is Dysfunctional Delights Meadery in Lebanon, Ohio. Their grand opening. So definitely worth checking that out. November 6th, Honeybrook Meadery, Castle Rock, Colorado. Pat Foley, live music. Also November 6th, Haley's Honey Meadery in Hopewell, Virginia does First Friday. They do this every month, first Friday of the month. And it's a bunch of vendors, or a bunch of local restaurants and drinkeries and whatnot. They get together, and it's a fun thing. November 7th, Beacon Meadery in Brooklyn, New York will be at the Brooklyn. I've got Brooklyn Crust Wine and Artisanal Food Festival. I'm pretty sure it's not crust, but the Wine and Artisanal Food Festival. And then November 13th, Honeybrook Meadery again, Castle Rock, Colorado. Josh Blackburn live music. They get Josh every 3 or 4 weeks. Seems like he's a regular there. November 20th, Honeybrook has Scott Brown live music. And for those of you who maybe don't have a local meadery or aren't seeing a lot of mead in your shops, you can go to shopmeads.com and buy mead there. And don't forget to check out your favorite meaderies' gear. They've got a lot of great gear. Let's keep supporting our meaderies as things start to, thank God, start slowly moving in the direction of maybe being more open. That's the plan anyway. But that's what we've got. I'm still pulling schedules together for going forward, and I'll let you guys know when we know. And in the meantime, we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Night, everybody.
Take care.
All right. Night all.